For more than 7 decades, every U.S. president has tried in one way or another to bring lasting peace to the Middle East. From Jimmy Carter's Camp David Accords to Bill Clinton's Oslo Summit, each leader really sought their own version of stability. But why has true peace remained so elusive? And what does America's role look like today? Those are big questions. So let's try to put it all into perspective with a friend of the show, Emory political science professor Andra Gillespie. Always good to have you on. We have you on a whole lot because you always seem to know the answers. So Andra, I want to ask you this morning, why has peace in the Middle East been such a long-running goal for so many U.S. presidents?
Well, there are a number of reasons to explain the U.S. involvement in the Middle East. The Middle East is a very strategic part of the world. It holds a lot of oil reserves. So for strategic purposes, it is in everybody's best interest for the countries that are located in that region to be able to work together and not be at conflict with each other, because you are jeopardizing a lot of our energy supply. It's also been really important to the United States to provide support for Israel in particular. So Israel was viewed as an ally in the region when sometimes there were few other allies in the region. It had the distinction of being a democracy, so the United States had something in common in terms of what the structure of government was supposed to be. And it's also important for us to realize that the United States has the largest population of Jewish citizens outside of Israel. And so for those reasons, it's actually been really important for the United States to play a role in what's happening in the Middle East and to help facilitate peace and dialogue where possible.
And Andra, we just mentioned Bill Clinton. We also just mentioned Jimmy Carter. When you look back in history over the last 50, 60 years or so, which president has made the biggest real world impact, you think, toward change and peace?
Well, that's a tough question. Many presidents have tried to put their stamp on promoting Middle East peace. I think we would be remiss to not acknowledge that the Camp David Accords still largely hold today, more than 45 years after they were signed. And so that is something that cannot be taken away from President Carter. And what we see now with this new announced accord is if Phase 2 can materialize. So Phase 1 was just about making sure that the hostages were released and that there was an active cessation of conflict in Gaza right now. But if Phase 2 can actually come to fruition and it holds, then that is something that certainly President Trump will be given a lot of credit for.
So how did these past attempts that you just kind of alluded to change the way the U.S. approaches diplomacy in that region?
Well, most of these approaches, there's certain fundamentals that I think are the same in having kind of, conversations with different folks. If we go back to actually Ralph Bunche's role as a representative of the United Nations in actually helping to negotiate the 1949 kind of end to the 1948 Palestine war, so what created the state of Israel, he did that shooting pool with the parties that were involved in that situation. President Carter invited Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat to come to the retreat at Camp David in order to negotiate. President Clinton was negotiating in secret between Yasser Arafat and Itzhak Rabin in Oslo, sort of outside of sort of the cover of media scrutiny so that they could have an opportunity to be able to talk. This one is being brokered first by the Abraham Accords that President Trump helped to negotiate during his first term in office. So what he's tried to do is to line up allies in the region to then try to help create the conditions under which hopefully the Palestinians can be brought to the table and agree to a cessation of violence and to a different type of governing structure. And it remains to be seen whether or not that's going to come to fruition. But all of these things involve getting people into a place where they are willing to talk and then also where they are going to be willing to make concessions.
Yeah, different approaches. Andra, before you go, I've got about 20 seconds. Given all the frustration over decades, what would success for a U.S. president actually look like? Are we looking at a treaty, a ceasefire, or perhaps just calmer relationships?
Well, President Trump has set a high bar for what he wants to see. And so I think what he is looking for is a new governing structure in Gaza where Gazans have and Palestinians have the right to be able to elect and unelect people who are, in positions of leadership, and also where these leaders are not resorting to violence when they cannot get their way. So that's a pretty tall order.
Andra Gillespie, always a wealth of knowledge for us here on The Take. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.